So again, I want to make it super clear. Class starts at 8:26. Class does not start at 8:32. Class starts at 8:26. Anybody that joins after that time is considered tardy. So we have to do our cross multiply. So let's get our cross multiply lines in. Cross multiply line. Cross multiply line. Okay, let me get this a little bigger. Print. There we go. That's better. Okay, now we got to go work it out. So when we're working out cross multiply, we're multiplying diagonal, right? So that means that my 3 would be multiplying by, let's try getting the right color. My 3 would be multiplying times my x, because that's diagonal, has to equal my 75 times my 1. Okay. So that gets me a 3x equaling 75. Okay. So now we can go do our big ones and our big zeros. Which are we going to be doing, a big 1 or a big 0? Which are we going to be doing, a big 1 or a big 0? Look at it. Is that a big 1 situation or is that a big 0 situation? All the cameras are on. I should see you. I shouldn't be doing the battle. Thank you, Lex. You are correct. The big 1, because I do not see any adding and subtracting. I do not have any big zeros. Okay. Big zeros come when there's adding and subtracting, and there's not. Okay. We're doing our big 1. We're big 1ing the number with the x. So in this case, we're big 1ing this 3 right here. So what do we need to do to big 1 that 3 out of there? What do we need to do to big 1 the 3 out of there? I'm going to start marking people tardy if they don't get their cameras fixed, because you're not really participating in class if you don't have yourself showing. We know this. Not a new thing. Yes, I still see you when I'm on share screen. I just don't project you guys to each other because it's none of anybody else's business. So how are we big 1ing that 3 out of there? I don't think so. I think that 3x means it's already multiplying. So what do we got to do to big 1 that 3 out of there? Divide both sides by 3. Thank you. So I have a 3x that's dividing by 3, and it has to equal, I'm going to fix this, the 75 divided by the 3. So what is our x going to be? And that got big 1 out of there. What's our x going to be? X equals how much? 25. Okay. Next one. Remember, any of this that we don't finish in class is stuff that you're finishing out of class between now and 3:30. We are on minimum day, so you have plenty of time after classes are done. Okay, so we're going to figure out which graph, which one, so they give us a hint, there's only one, which one of the following graphs represents a proportional relationship, and we're going to explain why. So who wants to tell me which one of these 3 is a proportional relationship and why? We've done proportional for quite a while. Which one of those is proportional and why? Think about what makes proportional. Which one of these is a proportional relationship and why? Bottom left, it starts at 0, 0. So that's partially correct. Thank you. So let's put that piece in, but there's more to it. There's more than just starts at 0, 0. Okay. So the bottom left is proportional. Oops, it's spelled right. Because it starts at the origin, right? 0, 0. And what else has to be true for it to be considered a proportional graph? Other than just starting at 0, 0. Because I could make one that starts at 0, 0 like this, right? Would that red line be considered proportional? No, it has to be a straight line that who starts at 0, 0. Okay. So don't just say it starts at 0, 0 because there are a lot of graphs that start at 0, 0 that are not proportional. And it is a straight line. Then I'm going to use my drawing thing and I'm going to circle the one I'm saying it's proportional. Okay. Next two. Because we get to see two at a time. Okay, we have to simplify. Does that mean I'm solving for the letters value when I simplify? No, it means that I'm going ahead and cleaning it up so it's just a couple pieces. So first thing, I see this negative that I have to distribute to both pieces. This front one doesn't have anything going on, so I don't have to worry about him. I'm just going to rewrite it. So negative 16, x, negative 4, and then I have to deal with that distribution. Negative 1 times negative 7x, because that's what's on the outside there. Between that negative sign and the parentheses, there's a hidden 1. And a negative 1 times a positive 2. So there is a hidden 1 in between here, okay? Because I see one set of the parentheses. Okay, so start cleaning up. Negative 16x minus 4. I have a negative 1 times a negative 7. What's that going to get me? What's a negative 1 times a negative 7 going to get me? Positive 7, yep. But I have a negative 1 times a negative 7x. So there's a little bit of an attachment that has to happen. It's not just 7, positive 7x. And then I have a negative 1 times a positive 2. A negative 1 times a positive 2. What would that be? What's a negative 1 times a positive 2? Times a positive 2. Negative 2. Yep, so give me 1 second. All right, so you can say positive 2. Now we got to clean them and pull them together. So I'm going to go do my color coding. My X's I'm going to make pink. You could make them any color you want. Make sure you take the sign when you highlight them. My numbers I'm going to make green. Make sure you take the sign when you do the highlighting, because that's what tells us how to pull them together. Okay, with the sign. All right, so this says a negative 16x with a positive 7x. Are those the same sign? Negative 16x with positive 7x. Are those the same sign? No. So when they're not the same sign, what are we supposed to do? When they're not the same sign, what are we supposed to do? Subtract and do what? Subtract and do what? Keep the sign on the bigger one. So are we going to be positive or are we going to be negative? Negative how much? 16 take away 7. And there's an X on it. So negative 9x. Now we look at the numbers. We have a negative 4 with a positive 2. We're going to do the same thing. Subtract and keep the sign on the bigger one. So what sign are we going to be? We're looking at just the numbers now. Negative 4 with positive 2. What sign are we going to be? What sign are we going to be? Negative 4 with positive 2. Negative. Negative how much? Negative 2. No X on those. Be careful. Watch what's going on. Okay, so that one's all done. That's all they want us to do. Clean it up. Here we go again. Cleaning it up. Distribute this negative 1. So we're doing exactly what we just got done with. Okay. So first, the first one, we take them out. There's nothing going on outside the parentheses. We don't need it in a parentheses. The second one, we have a negative 1 times a negative 2x and a negative 1 times a positive 14, right? Because we know that in between here is the hidden 1, because 1 times something doesn't change something. They don't write it, but it's there. So we still have a negative 21x. We still have a negative 12, and we're doing the next piece. Negative 1 times negative 2x. Negative 1 times negative 2x. What are we going to do? What are we going to get? Negative 1 times negative 2x. What are we going to get? Positive 2x, exactly. And then we have a negative 1 times a 14. What are we going to get? Negative 14. Okay, now we're going to go do our color coding to combine our like terms. I think I'll go with blue. Make sure you grab the signs when you do it. And pink. It really doesn't matter which ones you choose, okay, when you're on this kind of a worksheet, just so you can differentiate and give your brain time to think, okay? So I have a negative 21x and a positive 2x. Are those the same sign? Are those the same sign? No. So what are we going to do with them? What are we going to do with them? Cameras are on, and anybody who joined after 8:26 is tardy. So what are we going to do with them? Subtract and keep the sign on the bigger one. So negative 21 with positive 2, and then we have an X on it. So what are we going to get? Negative 21x, positive 2x. What are we going to get? Negative 19x. And then we have a negative 12 and a negative 14. Are those the same sign or different signs? Are those same or different? Those are same. So if they're same, what are we supposed to do all the time when they're the same sign? Add them and add them and keep the sign. So what are we going to get for this situation? -12 with -14 is going to get us what? Because we're adding them and keeping their sign. So -26. Yep. Okay, that one's done. They just wanted us to simplify it. They didn't want us to make it anything bigger deal than it was. Clean it up. That's what they wanted. That's what simplify means. Clean it up. When you get to the ones that say evaluate, though, those are the ones you're going to be finding number answers for, because you're going to plug in to the rule they give you the fact that my x is -4. So wherever I see an x in my expression they give me, I'm going to replace the x with the -4. Okay, so 14 was already there, subtract was already there, 6 was already there, and we're replacing the x with that parentheses -4. Okay, so now we go do the math. 14 is still there. -6 times -4. What do we get? I see a couple of you that need to get yourself to the right place on this worksheet if you want to be counted as attending the class. If I do -6 times -4, what am I going to get? I need signs, remember, because we're in an expression, +24. Okay, and then we'd go do the math for that. Those are both the same sign, so we're just going to add them together. So what are we going to get? What are we going to get? +38. And in our answer, we don't have to worry about the positives and negatives because we are done. The reason why we have to worry about our positive and negative along the way is because we're still combining with other things. We need to know what's combining with other things. Okay, we have this big expression we're going to simplify. So we're going to go get our color coding. I'm going to make x's orange. So anything that has an x and its sign. Ooh, they've got a whole string of them. That makes it so much easier. Anything with an x and its sign. And then I'll make the numbers green. And I have 2 of those. Because all the other ones have an X attached to them. So they're all going to be pulling together in the order we see them happening in the problem, PEMDAS, like we read the problem. All right, so first things first, we're going to start looking at these X's and we're doing them in the order they're showing up in the problem. In the same order as they show up in the problem, because they're all addition and subtraction. So we're doing them like we see them. So here we go. This says 2x minus what number is in front of this x that we know is there, but we do not see it? A 1. So I'm going to go draw a 1 in here to remind me there's a 1. Okay. So this says positive 2x minus an x. Where are we at now? Positive 2x minus an x. That would get me a positive 1x, right? So let's write that part of it down. I have a -7. I have a positive 1x that I'm going to write it in as we do it so that I can remember what's going on. But when I'm done with my answer, I am not going to have that 1 in there. There's only a 1. Okay, so I handled my first part, except there should be a plus sign right here. Now I have a positive 1x with a -4x. Not the same sign. So that means we have to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger one. So what sign are we going to be? What sign are we going to be? The negative 7 still here. We're not working with that. Positive 1x, negative 4x. What sign are we going to be when we combine those? Positive 1x, negative 4x. What sign will we be when we combine them? Negative. Now, how much negative though? And don't forget it has an x. So negative 3x, yes. And then I have a positive 12x, and I have a positive 5, and I have a positive 3x. Okay, so now we're going down to the next level. We're pulling together the negative 3x and the positive 12x, not the same sign. So we're going to subtract. What's the sign going to be for the answer when we are done subtracting? What's the sign going to be when we're done subtracting with a negative 3x and a positive 12x combined? Positive, and then 12 take away 3x, 12x take away 3x, 9x, plus the 5 plus the 3x. Okay. The negative 7 still here. I've gotten to the point where I'm going to go ahead and recolor code because it's going to be quick. So I picked green for my numbers, and I picked red for my letters, right? Was it red or was it pink? I think it's red, huh? Or it's orange. It's orange. So now we're to the ones like we just got done a second ago up above, right? That we just have 2 of each one, so we're going to just quick combine. Okay. I did the X's slowly because there were so many of them to work with. I pulled this center together one step at a time. Now we've got it to where we can see it. We have a 9x, positive 9x and positive 3x. What's that going to be for our X's? Positive 9x with a positive 3x means we have a total of how many? 12x, yes. And then we have a negative 7 pulling together with a positive 5. So what's our sign going to be? What's our sign going to be? With a negative 7 pulling together with a positive 5, it's going to be a negative. Negative how much? Negative 2, exactly. Okay, negative 2. That one's done. Nope. Drop. Okay, next page. So these, see, they have equal signs in them. They're equations. So we're going to have to solve for what the x is going to equal. Okay. The other ones, they didn't have an equation. They didn't have an equal sign. So we didn't have any way to solve them. We just cleaned them up as best we could. So this is our big zeros and our big ones once they're cleaned up. I notice in this problem, there is no parentheses. There is no extra things on either side. So I'm going to go to work. I need to do what first? What always happens first when I see a problem like this? What always do I have first? Do I do big zeros first or big ones first whenever I see a problem like this? Big zeros first or big ones first? Look what we have in it. I thought that big ones are for when the x is all by itself. Is the x piece all by itself? No. So we have to do the big zeros first. Remember, every time we see an add or subtract, our big zeros have to go first. I see a subtraction in here. So, or if it has an addition. That has to happen first. I need to big zero out anything that's an addition or subtraction. Okay. Anything that there's more than one of, basically. There's more than one number. There's more than one number. So I have to big zero that -2. What am I going to do to have that happen? I have to big zero that -2. So what am I going to do for that to happen? I have to add 2 where? Add 2 on both sides. So I have to add 2 to my 16. And I also have to add 2 to my -2, because that's what's going to make it big zero out of there. +2, -2, 0. That's the point. Okay, that's the point. All right. Now it's gone because it's 0. What's the left side going to say once we do the math? What's this left side going to say once we do that math? 18. And it has to equal what was left on the right-hand side after we big zeroed. Yep, 9x. All right, so do we have any more addition and subtractions? Do we have any more addition and subtractions? No. So now we're going to the big ones. So remember, addition and subtraction always goes first, and those are big zeros. We're now getting rid of this number with the x by doing the big 1. So what do I need to do to get that 9 out of there? Divide 9 on both sides. So we have 18 divided by 9 has to equal, oops, forgot to push the arrow, has to equal 9x divided by 9, right? Because we had to big 1 this 9 out of here. And now I'm ready for an answer. I have just an x, and then I have to do the math. 18 divided by 9 is what? 2. Now, will they all come out to be pretty whole numbers? No. Is a fraction okay? Yes, but you just have to make sure that it's a simplified fraction like we had happening yesterday. For those who missed class yesterday, you're going to want to watch that video. Okay, distribute. Okay, this says 2 times an x plus 2 times a +4, and it is a plus in front of the 2 because the 2 is a positive number. Okay, equals 20. Okay, so we have to do those parentheses. So what's a 2 times an x? What's a 2 times the x? 2x, okay. And then I have a +2 times a +4. Which is a what kind of 8? +8. Exactly. So we have 2x plus 8 has to equal 20. Okay, so we're ready to big 0 and big 1. What are we going to do? Big 0 or big 1? Look what the problem looks like. Big 0 because I see an add or subtract in there. Exactly. I need to big 0 out this +8. How are we going to big zero out that positive 8? Subtract 8 from both sides. Yes, so I'm going to subtract 8 from 8. That's why he's a big 0. And I have to subtract 8 from 20, because whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other. You have to keep it balanced. It has to stay balanced. You can't only do one side. You have to do both. Okay. Big 0, all gone. What is left on that side? After we big 0 the 8 out of there, what's left? 2x. And that 2x has to equal the math from the other side. So what are we going to get? Okay, so we're done with our big 0. So now what do we need to do? We're done with the big 0. So now what do we need to do? Divide both sides by 2, because we have to do our big 1. We have to get this 2 out of there, and it's multiply right now. So that's why we're dividing both sides by 2. So 2x divided by 2 has to equal 12 divided by 2. I know I've zeroed out this, and there's just an x there. And then we get to solve for what 12 divided by 2 is. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Now, do you notice it's not saying to check your answers? So be thankful for that. It's not saying to check your answers, but a lot of you didn't get full credit on the assignment, on the various homework assignments, because when it said in the instructions to check your work, you didn't. So you only did half of what you were asked to do. That's why some of you got the scores you got on some of the homework assignments. Remember, Aries is your most accurate grade now. Everything's graded that's going to be graded for now. All right. So now we're on our next one. What do we have to do first? Big 0 or big 1? Big 0 or big 1? Big 0. And which big 0 are we doing? The x's or the numbers? Because I see both have pluses and minuses. Always the x's first. Always the x's first. Always the smallest x moving to the biggest x. So we need to look at it. Which x is smaller? It's the one that needs to move. Which x is smaller? It's the one that needs to move. 4x is smaller. Now, what do I need to do to big 0 that 4x out of there, though? I got to move it over the line. What am I going to have to do to big 0? Subtract the 4x from both sides. Yes. So minus 4x from the 12x and minus 4x from 4x, which is the big 0. That's why we can cross that one out, because it's now 0. And we have to do the math on the left side. 12x's minus 4x's gets us what? That says 12x's minus 4x's. What do we get? 8x. And then we still have that minus 4 in there because we didn't do anything with him. And that's going to equal what's left on the other side, the 16. All right. We still have another big 0 because we see addition or subtraction. This negative 4x has to go. What do we need to do? What do we need to do? Add 4 where? On both sides, exactly. Add 4 to the 4. That's what makes it become the number 0. Add the 4x to the 16 so we can move forward with our answer. So all that's left on the left-hand side is what? What do we have left over here? The 8x. Put it. 8x has to equal what happened on the right-hand side. I don't think 16 minus 4 makes 20. Oh, it is an add 4, isn't it? Did I put a plus 4 in there? It's hard to see. 20. Thank you for catching that because it was a minus 4. Okay, not done. What do we need to do now? What do we need to do now? We need to big 1 this 8 out of here, exactly. So we need to big 1. Let me back up for a second. This 8 out of there. How do we big 1 that 8 out of there? What are we going to do? Divide 8 on both sides, exactly. So this says 8x divided by 8 has to equal 20 divided by 8, right? We've got our big 1 that happened, so we don't have to worry about this number in front of the x anymore. It's gone. We have an x, and it's going to equal, problem is 20 doesn't get divided by 8 evenly. So we have to divide that 20 and divide the 8 by the same number to make it simplest form, because we need the simplified fraction, exactly. Simplified fraction. So what divides into both 8 and 20? What's the biggest one that can divide 8 and divide 20? 4, exactly. Now, if you just had said 2 and you divided by 2, you would have noticed you had to divide again. Okay, and so it's okay. So sometimes the divide has to come in 2 steps. It's fine. But you have to remember to get it all the way down to simplest form. So what is 20 divided by 4? What's my fraction going to be now? Five over 2. Exactly. 5 divided by 2. And we leave it. We don't worry about it. It's done. Answer. Okay. So we have to do it again, right? Do it again. First, what are we looking for? Big zeros or big ones? Big zeros or big ones? Big zeros. When we do our big zeros, what big zero are we going to do first? Letters or numbers? Letters. Okay, so let's go do the letter marks. I need to move the smallest letter to the biggest letter. So which one am I going to move? And how am I going to move it? How am I going to move that by negative 5x? What am I going to do? I'm going to add 5x to both sides, exactly. So put my line in, showing my separation, right? My balance that I have to keep. And then I'm going to add 5x on the left. And I'm going to add 5x on the right. And I big zero out the left side. And what do I notice happens? I'm going to end up big zeroing out the right side too. Yeah. So now, what's left of my equation? What's left on the left-hand side? What's left on the left-hand side? 7. What's left on the right-hand side? And we ask ourselves, is this true or false? Are we going to put a check mark or are we going to put a slash? Are we going to put a check mark or are we going to put a slash? A slash, because 7 does not equal 3. So now we've got to figure out what's the answer to this problem. Did we find an x equals something? Did we solve an x equals something? Do you see an x in our answer? No. So we didn't solve an x equals something. We got a false statement. So what are we going to say the answer is to this? If it's not true and it's not an x equals, what do we say the answer is? No solution. Because we can't solve it. Okay, no solution. If we get a true statement though, so we're going to add a little bonus one right here. Right down. If answer had been, okay, something like 7 equals 7. What are we going to put? Are we going to put a slash or are we going to put a check mark? On a 7 equals 7, instead of slash or instead of check mark? That's a check mark. So when the x's are all gone and we get a false, it's no solution. But if the x's are all gone and we get a check mark, we get infinitely many solutions. Okay, and we didn't have this didn't happen to us when we were doing the work, but it is possible for answers on the test. So I wanted to have both on the notes for you because yes, you get to have these open as notes. Okay, yes, you get to have these open as notes. So I wanted to make sure both sets of notes are there. Okay, that if we get no letters and we get a false, that's no solution. If we get no letters and we have a true, that's infinitely many solutions. Okay. Solving again. So first thing, I know I got to distribute this number on the outside because that's an automatic. Every time I see a number outside of parentheses, I have to do that first. My negative 4x, we didn't do anything to it. My positive 6, we didn't do anything to it. My equals, we didn't do anything to it. We have the negative 2 that's multiplying by the 2x, and the negative 2 that's multiplying by the negative 3. Okay. So now we're going to go start doing some math. Negative 4x plus 6 has to equal. A negative 2 times a 2x gets us what? A negative 2 times a 2x gets a negative 4x. Negative 2 times negative 3. Positive 6. Oops. Plus 6. I don't know what to tell you. You gotta just follow along with what you see. You can always check the video later. All right. What do we always move first when we have pluses and minuses? The letters. Okay, so we're going to go highlight our letters. We need to big zero those letters. What are we going to do? We need to big zero those letters. What are we going to do? Add 4x to both sides. Yes. Oops, I didn't hit the wrong button. Okay. Okay. I noticed big zero again, right? So what do I have left? What's left? 6 on the left side equaling 6 on the right side. Yeah. So is that going to be a check mark or is that going to be a slash? Is that going to be a check mark or is that going to be a slash? That's going to be a check mark. Exactly. Let me fix this. It's bugging me. There it is. That's going to be a check mark. And when it's a check mark, what's our answer going to say? Yep, infinitely many solutions. Infinitely, it's one of those you have to spell. Many solutions. But if let's do this one. If the answer was something, I can spell it right, like, we're going to put it in both places, opposites. 4 equals negative 3. What's that one going to be? Is that going to be a slash or is that going to be a check mark? That's going to be slash because 4 does not equal -3, right? So what would we say our answer is for this situation? No solution. So we put them on each other's reverse. So that way, remember, you're allowed to have the notes open when you're taking the final. Okay, guess what? Last one. We almost can get it done if we do the right thing. So what do I have to do to find the equation? What marks do I need to be putting right now? What marks do I need to be putting right now? What do I need to be solving for to write the equation? I need to be finding my changes. We've done this lots and lots. I should be getting lots of responses right now on these because we've done a lot of these. I need to find my changes. Yep. I see that this is changing by +1, right? And I see this one's changing by +1. So there's my change of x's. How are we going to find the change of y's? What are we going to do? What are we saying that one is? What's my change of y's going? Adding 5 each time, okay? Adding 5 each time. All right. So we need to write an equation. What do we need to find first when we're writing the equation? Now that we've got our jumps, what do we need to solve for first? Now that we've got our jumps, what do we need to solve for first? When we're solving our equation, what do we solve for first? We did a lot of these, guys. Come on, we only have a minute left of class and you're gonna have to do this all by yourself. Not yet. We can't do y equals mx plus b yet because we don't have some pieces to fill in. What do we have to solve first? Y equals mx plus b comes after. What do we always have to solve for first? All right, so you guys have this one. You're going to finish on your own. You have until 3:30 to get it finished.